Hi, my name is Dan, and this video is one in a series of introductory videos that I'm doing for editing stuff, level editing in Unreal, which is aimed at people who are pretty much unfamiliar with Unreal. And in this one, I want to explore materials and just some basic use of materials. Now, what I'm not going to do is teach you how to make complex materials in this video. I will teach you how to do some custom materials of your own, but quite simple stuff. So I guess the first question is, what is a material? I'm just going to focus in on this wall here that I put this pebbles material on. So it's basically it's describing the surface and how to draw surfaces of objects, and this has been done using material, and it's kind of at the most basic level. It's either a color or a texture, and this has got a texture. You can see there's some kind of weird effects when we come zoom in close on that one. This surface here on these stairs, that is the default untextured or unmaterial view of something, so it's just a checkerboard thing. This is a basic, there's a default surface material for things. You can see down here it says basic shape material, and this is, sorry, I'm going to get the bush. It's quite a more complex material. It's the bush material. Now, if you watch the previous video to this, you'll have seen me apply that bush material to a couch, which makes it look very weird. So putting the wrong material on the wrong thing can have interesting effects. So let's start with some real basics of how to actually apply materials. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this box here, which you can hardly see because it's the same material as the ground underneath it. I'm just going to hold Alt and pull out to create, and do it again. I'm going to create about 5 of these, shall we? 5. So these are different copies of the same box, but I can put materials on them separately. So I'm going to start with one that's called a basic wall material. So the starter content that you get when you create a project and you tick the starter content checkbox gives you some materials, actually some really quite nice materials in there. So if you click on starter content and then you click on materials, you get a range of fairly useful basic, some of the more advanced materials here, and we're going to use some of these. And as you'll see, the icon for a material is a ball with that material rendered on it, so that you can see what the material looks like. And we're just going to apply the basic floor to this first box. There we go. And all I've done is I've dragged that onto that box, and that material has been applied. I'm going to show you other ways of applying materials. So I'm going to highlight this one and do it in a different way. And I'm going to use this drop down here. Now, I haven't set up the Windows zooming in thing, so I'm just going to pause the video whilst I do that. Okay, I'm back, so that didn't take long. So I'm just going to zoom in down here so that it's a bit easier for you to see. So we've got this box selected, and down here in the details panel with the general tab highlighted, it gives us the ability to access the material for that object. And there's a drop-down box here, so it's currently got the basic shape material. It also nicely shows you what the material is like as well in this interface. So I'm just going to get the basic wall here, which is slightly different to the basic floor, but not very much. And that's just kind of a white, blankish material. Now, how's that been applied? yes, it does look different to the next one along. Right, so on the next one, I'm going to once again come down here, and I'm going to find for a more complex material for here. And the way that I'm going to do this, I'm actually going to, I'll show you where it is in here. I'm actually going to use this brick clay bevels, but I'm not going to access it through there. I'm going to do it by looking for it from here, and we've got a big list of all the ones available. But as is very common in Unreal, we've also got a text filter here. So I'm going to type in bevel, which is part of that, and it will reduce my list down to that one there. So I'm just going to zoom back out again, and we can see in the viewport that we've now got that stone brick kind of material on here. Last time in the last video we had a sofa, which was looking quite nice. I'm just going to go and grab that again and put that. We've got a chair here, and where's the sofa? Oh, it's the couch. That's what it is. I changed the material for the couch last time to a leafy material, so let's just actually have the chair. So it actually uses the same material, but the couch is just an elongated version. So that's quite clever. I'm gonna get that back up and change that back to the couch. So I'm not doing this in the static mesh editor, so it's just, where's that not bringing the oh, because it's called chair, that's right, the chair material. There we go. And as you can see, hopefully, those two are actually using the same material, but the couch is just elongated, so it's stretched the material along to make it appropriate. The material for this, you can see there's actually a silvery bit for the arms here, and then an orangey bit for the cushions. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply that same material, the chair material, to one of these boxes, so that you can see it in a different context. So I'm going to apply it to that box, and I'm going to do again the thing of just typing in to find that material, because it's not with the other materials here in the starter content, it's amongst the prop stuff. Here there's a set of materials for the props, and that looks quite curious, and we'll have a look at these materials in a little bit. But it doesn't work obviously on a cube, but you can see some of the shapes that have been used on the for the actual chair effectively. And this material uses what's called an unwrap, which means it's kind of it's got the various bits, and then it's been coloured. Somebody's gone through and coloured the various bits, and there's a complicated thing called UV mapping or texture mapping, which tells you which bit of the texture goes on which bit of the object that you've got, and that's way beyond the scope of this video. Right, we're going to leave the last one unchanged, because we're actually going to, let's have an extra one as well, because we're actually going to create a couple of our own materials shortly. Why is that not giving me an extra copy of that? It has. It's just hiding against the wall. Let's just, yeah, there we got it. Fine. All right. So let's have a look at some of these materials. So this material was the wall material, and I've pre-loaded that. So this is what the materials editor looks like, and I want to emphasize again, there's a lot you can do in here, and it's quite complicated. So I really am only telling you the absolute basics of this. Every material has this node in it, which is kind of the final node, and you feed in information from the left to the right. And this, you can see there's some of the pins on this node are deactivated, because you can set up what kind of material it is over here on this side. But you've got, you've always got a base color, and all this is doing is it's feeding it's what's called a literal color, feeding a colour into the colour. It's also got a value for roughness, so that's how shiny it looks. I've also got the basic floor, which is quite similar. It's just got a colour, but the thing that this has got added to it is it's also got a metallic value, so it's got a slight metallic look to it. The brick clay beveled, much more complicated. And we've got here textures that are being used. We've got various things that are altering them. So that's the actual basic texture that's being used on this material. This looks very similar, and it's kind of mapped to be the same, except it's all kind of blue and pink. And when you see these blue and pink textures, they're used for what's called normal mapping, sometimes called bump mapping, because what the end result is it actually gives you the impression of it's got bits that go in and out on the texture. And that's all faked, of course, but everything in 3D is faked. This stuff up here is less worth worrying about. It's about giving some variation over. If you had a large wall, it wouldn't look all the same, and it makes it look more realistic. And these are what's called noise textures. So they're just creating some variation over the width of the thing. And we've got another thing here, which is doing something called ambient occlusion. It's also the green from it is being fed into the roughness, so there's some change of roughness over the texture, so that kind of the middle of the brick looks a bit smoother than down inside the where it's mortared together. So making alterations to this would be quite a complicated thing. Let's quickly show you the chair as well, seeing as we're there, and we can see that texture that we saw on the surface of the cube, which has got this unwrap, and it's got also an equivalent bump mapping, so normal mapping texture, and it's got some basic colours that are going in there as well. So it's actually using these colours, but it's using that to tell you. It kind of works out which colour needs to go on which bit according to this texture sample here. And there's some various other bits of things going in. Everything feeds, as I say, from the left to the right along these wires. So again, I'm not going to do a lot of explanation, but the base colour here is made up of stuff from there, and using the texture and doing what's called linear interpolation to work out which one's going to be used, and then all feeds into here. Complicated stuff. Right, let's do what I promised, which is to actually create a couple of materials. Well, the first one we're going to, both of them are pretty straightforward actually. The first one we're going to do is we're going to go into the back into the starter materials, and we're going to take this basic wall material. Now what I'm going to do is, because that's just a colour that's put in with a little bit on the roughness as well, we're going to use this to be able to give us other coloured materials. You can do it from scratch, but it's probably easiest just to create another material from here. So what I'm not doing is create a material instance. What I'm going to do is do a duplicate. So I'm going to duplicate that, and I'm going to call it my mat. And it's just taken a little while to think about it. I'm going to open that up in the editor. As you see, we get this colour, and if I click on that colour there, double click, I get a colour picker. So I'm just going to make this a nice purple colour instead. So the reason why I made a duplicate is because what I don't want to do is change the material that came as part of the starter content, because I might want to use that at some point without being changed. So I've changed this, the colour of this, so we've got kind of pinky purple. I'm just going to click save on that. And so it's got nothing that's it's applying to yet. And I'm just going to wait for this to save. That's being a bit slow today. Here we go. And I'm going to go back to my level and have extra boxes over here. So here's my material now with this kind of pinky purple colour on it, and I'm just going to drag it on and use it on that box. And it looks more purpley on there because it's got less highlight going on. So that was a way to create a simple coloured material. Now, if I want to make that be more kind of plasticky, I could change the roughness. In fact, if I change the roughness down to 0, it makes it almost like glass. But if I want to, this is a number between 0 and 1, 0.1. So that's kind of like a shiny plastic there. I'm going to save that. You can see the reflections happening, which is quite nice. And then that's just not, but it has caught up because you can see the reflections there of stuff. Yeah, nice. Final thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to create a material from a texture, because the basics of what you want to do might be to put a texture on rather than a colour. So first of all, I want to get a texture and put it into my Unreal project, and I've got my content folder that I created in the last tutor, and I'm just going to do import. So what I can do is I can go into the file system and I can just drag and drop things in, and Unreal will detect them. But on this occasion, I'm going to use the import button and go looking through my files. So this is actually the folder pre-prepared, getting this ready. This is the folder that has all the assets that I use for creating this video, and in fact, at the moment, that's the file that I'm recording to as I'm videoing. So I'm just going to get the title from the video and click open, and it's just going to import it in, and it's really quick. It's just a JPEG, and it's put it in the assets there, but I can't. I say I can't apply that to an object. I'm just now wondering what's going to happen if I directly try and apply that. And it's too clever by half. What it's done is it's made the material for me. The other way of doing this is to right-click and say create material. But actually, Unreal is clever enough to know that that's what I needed it to do. So it's created a material out of that, and now you can see that texture is on all. Well, I'll show you 5 sides. It's on the 6th side, yes, it's there as well. Okay, and what I'm going to do is open that material up so you can see what it is, and it's just what's called a texture sample, which is using that texture there and plugging it into the color. It's also got it's automatically plugged in an opacity mask. So this was if I had any transparency in that image, it would have been using that transparency as well. Okay, so back to here, we've got various different things. All I'm going to do now is I'm going to press play and kick these boxes around for a few seconds, because they're all 6 objects. So that's my floor. So no, that's my wall. That's my floor texture. That's my brick texture. That's my crazy chair that's not working. That's like coloured plastic that I made myself, and that's the one with the texture that we imported. So that's some really basic texture use, and sorry, not just texture, materials use in Unreal, and that's it from me for now.